All right, so having talked about variables, the next step is for us to talk about conditionals. And conditionals are another really foundational idea for computer programming, and they allow us to compare values and then change what happens inside of our program as a result of that. So we're going to look at some examples first using the console, and then a quick example with drawing. And this is going to lead into the next video where we talk about iteration, looping structures where we need to be able to, again, kind of define flow for things. So we're going to go ahead and create a new sketch. I've actually deleted my setup here, but that's okay. I'm going to leave off draw for now and even a canvas because right now we're just going to focus on the console. And even before we write any code, let's just talk about some of the symbols that we're going to be using for conditionals. Oh, and maybe a better question is, what the heck is a conditional? Conditionals, you can think of them as if statements. They're logical statements that we can use to control flow of our program. And there's some symbols that we're going to use for this, some of which you might have seen before, some of which might be new. And they look like this. These first four are probably familiar from math class. Greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. We can say, for example, if 2 is greater than 1, that's true. 1 is less than 2. This is true because 4 equals 2 plus 2. This would also be true because 4 is greater than 2 plus 1. These next three might be new to you if you haven't done programming before. First one is equality, and this is if we want to check if two values are the same. Now, you might be asking, why can't we just use the equal sign? That's what I'm used to. But let's imagine, for example, a variable a equals 1. This single equal sign here means set the value of a equal to 1. So we can't use that same thing because the programming, remember, it's a dumb robot. It doesn't know what you're doing, and it's going to be confused. So in this case, we use this triple equal sign, and that means is this one value equal to the value of this other one? Now, we don't have time today to get into why is it triple equals. In JavaScript, actually, there's also a double equals, which is different. I could say for now, don't sweat it. Safest thing is to use this triple equals. And again, if at some point you run into this or you want to do some research, awesome, you're going to find lots and lots of information online about this. The last two values here, or symbols, are ones that are unique to programming and that we're going to use a lot. And those are and or. And I really like to think if you can read a line of code like a sentence, it makes it much easier to understand what's going on. So and, that's the double ampersand, that's the one above the 7 key on your keyboard. This says if A is less than B and B is greater than or equal to 10. And or, which is this double pipe symbol, that's above your return or your enter key. This is if A is less than B or B is greater than C. And we can use and or to tie together two or more statements like the ones up here to make much more complicated kinds of comparisons. And we're going to be using conditionals all throughout our programming to control the flow of the program, to turn parts on and off, to respond to user input or the position of something on screen, all kinds of really cool things. So let's look at a simple example to start. I've got two variables, a and b. 1 is equal to 2, b is equal to 1. Or sorry, a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2. And let's say I want to check if they are the same. I can say if a equals b, console.log, a equals b. Probably printing this is not super interesting, but we can see that it should work here. Cool. Oh, but they're not equals. I was thinking, why is this not working? They're not equal. If I change these here, now we'll see. Awesome. Okay, cool. So it's printing down there. If we wanted to catch this and have it do something if they are not equal, I could say else console.log a does not equal b. And now this if, so if a is equal to b, it runs this little bit of code. Otherwise, else it runs this little bit of code. let's say we want to compare if A is greater than B as well. So we want to know, is it equal? Nope. Is it greater than? Well, for that, we can, I'm just going to paste in here because it's a little easier. We can see now A is greater than B, and it's going to print something else. So if I make this 2, now A is greater than B. Now, if we start thinking about logic, we can realize that if A is not equal to B and A is not greater than B, then A must be less than B. And so we can use an else here, just like before. Boom. And now, got some funky formatting, but that's okay. And now it's going to show us our 3 options. And if we change this to be smaller, now A is less than B. So those are basic comparisons. We can chain these together. We can use only the parts we need. Maybe we don't care about some of these. That works pretty great. Next, let's make another variable. I'm going to copy this again. Okay, so we've so far looked at numbers. Let's look at Booleans. So enjoy if statements. And if I want to check this, I can write this one of 2 ways. I can say enjoy if statements. I'm just going to copy this. Equals, remember it's triple equals, true console.log. I like if statements. And so if that's true, it's going to print that text. If this was false, it's not going to print that text. Now, this is fine and it works great, but there's a shorthand that you're going to see a lot, which is like this. And again, if you read it as a sentence, if enjoy it if statements, then console.log. So that looks good, and you're going to see that a lot. Let's look at one more way that we might use these, which is combining these kinds of tests together. Numerical Booleans using and or. So I'm going to add 2 more variables to my sketch. So I want to know whether or not I'm hungry. In this case, it's true. And how many hot dogs have I eaten today? And 3 is a lot, but let's say we want to test and say, if I'm hungry and I've eaten less than 6 hot dogs, I can still eat another hot dog. So we'll say if, and here's where we combine it together. If hungry and num hot dogs eaten is less than 6, console.log hot dog time. So this combines these together. If hungry, and again, this is the same as if hungry is true, and I've eaten less than 6 hot dogs, then it's hot dog time. If I change one of these, then it's not both true, and we're not going to see this. So if I've eaten 7 hot dogs, no hot dogs for me. And if I'm not hungry, I shouldn't be eating any hot dogs. We can do the same thing with an or statement and 2 variables or more. So let's say we've got a room that may have zombies in it, or it may have cobras in it. I'm sorry if that's your situation. And we can say if zombies or cobras, console.log run away. Definitely. So zombies is true, cobras is false, but it only matters one or the other has to be true for us to need to run away. And I think that's pretty sage advice. Okay, so we've combined if statements using or and. Let's look at one more example where we can make a mega if statement. And for this, I need 4 variables. I've got these here. So donuts cost $1.50. I have $1.20, which is pretty sad. But my friend is here, and my friend has $4.50. So let's say I want to create an if statement that determines if either I have enough money to buy a donut, or my friend is here and they have enough money to buy us both donuts, because it would be unfair to ask them to just buy me a donut. So if you want to pause for a second and try to figure out how you would write that if statement, that would be great. I'll give you a hint. You may need to put some elements of those statements in parentheses so it sees them as a group. So if you want to pause for a second, try that. And we'll take a stab at this together. So first thing, I want to know, do I have enough money for a donut? So I can say, if my money is greater than or equal to donut cost, because I can have exactly enough. I don't need to have more than enough money for a donut. Or, and now I want to know if my friend is here and if they have enough money to buy 2 donuts. And I'm going to do this on a second line just so it's a little easier to read. I can say friend here and friend money is greater than or equal to donut cost. Now, and I'll just close this off here. So this looks a little funky, but you get the idea. And if that's true, console.log go get donuts. We can see it's true, not because I have enough money, but because my friend is really generous. Now this is working, but you may want to combine this statement in parentheses like this. And the reason is we want to make sure that it's comparing this and then this whole thing as a chunk together. We can see here, it worked okay. P5JS didn't give us an error, but we might run into other times where that's the case. And I think it's a little easier to read. And really readable code is super key. So I'm going to actually combo these up like this into one long line. This works the same way, totally fine. And we could change these and kind of see what happens. So this is a brain bender. This is not super easy to get your mind around, but you can combine these statements together to create really complex flow inside your program. Okay, one last example before we make a drawing, and that would be to compare text. So far we've looked at just numbers, but my name is Jeff. I have a cat. His name is Manchego. He, I guarantee you, is buried under the covers in the bed right now because he's super lazy. And I want to know if we have the same name. I don't know if anybody names their cats after themselves. It's a little weird, but let's test it. So we can say my name equals my cat's name. And if so, can't type today, say meow. And you can see here that we can compare strings of text in the same way using this triple equals that we can do with any other kind of values, which is really great. If I change my name here to Manchego, now we're going to see that we have the same name. In other programming languages, this is not as easy or as straightforward as in P5JS and JavaScript, but this is pretty cool. So we want to draw something. This is kind of silly, just printing to the console. So I'm going to add my draw here. All right, let's draw a circle on the screen. We can say fill of 0, no stroke, a circle right in the center. Cool. Oh, and let's, I deleted the create canvas, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back. All right. What if we want to make the circle move across the screen and then loop back around and come back to where it came from? To do that, we probably need a variable, a global variable accessible to our whole program. And we'll start it at 200. And notice I'm putting it way up at the top, so it's a global variable. And then I can change X here. And nothing has changed, but let's say we make it move. And we're going to talk about animation in detail. So right now, don't worry too much, but this is going to just be X. We're going to move it by 1 pixel to the right every time. X equals X plus 1. But what happens, it's going to go over here and then just keep going and going and going and going and going and going and going. We want to make it loop back around. And to do that, we can use an if statement, a conditional. I can say if X is greater than width, X equals 0. And now it's going to go across the screen. And once X is greater than the width, it's going to reset it over to the right, left side, and then continue and continue and continue in that loop, which is pretty cool. So this is a really common way that you might use a conditional in kind of a real world thing. Let's look at one more example. Often, I'm going to be developing a program like this to be displayed in a gallery or museum or something like that. And I want to have kind of a behind the scenes debug mode that I can look at to help me know what's going on in my program, but I don't want everybody else to see that. And an easy way to do this, again, is to go all the way to the top, and I create a variable called debug. Debug's a Boolean, it's true or false. And when I'm working, then I can create code inside the debug if statement that'll give me some feedback. So maybe I do console.log x. Now what happens is I'm seeing the exposition of the circle going by. It really helps me see, okay, cool, it reset like it's supposed to. And I can have lots of these throughout my program. When it comes time to publish it or have somebody see it, I don't have to go and remember to delete all these things or comment them out or whatever. All I have to do up here is change this to false, and it no longer runs. That bit of code goes away. It's easy to read, easy to update. This is a really, really helpful thing. So you can see we can use conditionals for all kinds of things. We're going to see it one more time in the next video where we're doing iteration and loops, where we want to know how long to run a loop for. And so we're going to see conditionals used there. So I'll see you in the next video.